Okay, we're going to talk today about the Oddment Shawl, which is published in the 2025 Deep Winter issue of Knitty, which is about scraps. I love knitting with scraps. For this shawl, I thought about how to randomize the colors. And instead of making a color palette, I weighed my yarn. I started with, I think, about 1.5 grams, 2 grams up at the top. And then I started with my smallest weights of yarn, moving up to my largest weights of yarn. And when I changed colors, I did a little embellishment row of either garter or eyelets. So let's talk about some of the places that this shawl really shines all the way down to the crown edging at the bottom. The first thing to consider is how you're going to divide up your yarns, which scraps you're going to use, and you can start with your smallest scraps. In the sample shawl, I think that some of the scraps up here at the top, this one, was maybe 0.5 gram or a little over 0.5 gram of yarn. So really, like, your tiniest ends will be just fine. I don't think I used anything that was less than 0.5 gram. You'll need a little digital scale. Hopefully one that does decimals, so a postage scale, or this little scale I got from Leading Men Fiber Arts. So 1.8 grams, that's not very much. Let's see. 3.12, we'll put that there. 1.8, about the same as that. 1.29, that'll go there. 1.04. Let's see. Oh, there was a tear weight. Check your tear, make sure it's going back to 0. 1.24, about there. 3.67 versus 3.13, so that'll go there. I'm not trying to be picky about color placement. I'm actually really allowing the weights of the yarn to randomize my selection and make my choices for me, which is a fun way to use up scraps and to not get really attached to a certain way colors are gonna all move across your shawl. 2.96, that's gonna go there. This one's a lot. 7 up here. So now I have a beginning idea. These are just my smallest scraps. I'll need a lot more to make a whole shawl. But now I need to think about what I want to start with. And I know I need 1.5 to 2-ish grams to do that beginning part of the shawl. 2.81, that could be good. I think I'll go with that. We'll pick that for the beginning. And then I'll join up these at least to here in order to make the first bit of my shawl. Next, we're going to talk about joining the yarns. We're going to have so many scraps. I think in the sample there are at least 30 different yarns. I didn't want to weave in ends and I didn't want dangling holes, so I'm going to use a sewn Russian join, which is my favorite way to join yarns when I'm using lots and lots and lots of colors. So I've got a very fine needle here that'll fit. The eye will fit my fingering weight yarn just fine. It's not sharp. A sharp needle works really well for this, but this one will be sharp enough. I've also got a needle threader just because I'm getting thicker yarn through a smaller needle eye. So we're going to start with my first yarn, my lightest weight. This one was just about 1 gram. Get that on my needle. And then I'm going to go about, I don't know, 2 inches in, and I'm going to start sewing through the ply. I'm going to be pretty tidy, but I'm also not going to be too picky. And I've got a couple of inches here, 1.5 inches. I probably want 2 inches, more or less. Okay. And then I'll take the end of this yarn and thread it through the loop I've just made, and just pull it and let it be. And pull the yarn end on the needle through the ply of the yarn, and then stretch it out so that it is sewn around, the purple yarn is sewn around the black, blue, gray yarn. I think the purple is Malabrigo, and I know the black is Knitted Wit from a long time ago. Then I'm going to thread this one. Oops, I did that backwards. Order of operations. Onto my needle. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing going back on my second yarn, my Knitted Wit. Just going to sew into the ply 1.5 inches, 2 inches. It doesn't have to be terribly long. Basically what you're doing is you're locking the yarns together at the join and simultaneously weaving in your end, so that when you get to the end of the shawl, your ends are all dealt with and your yarn joins are basically invisible, almost completely invisible, which makes me really happy. Okay, so I'm pulling that one through. Okay, so there's my join all stretched out. You can see that the color change happens just in one moment. This end has disappeared in. This end can be trimmed. And when I come to my next color, if I work all the way through this Malabrigo, I guess the Malabrigo is my first color, isn't it? I can then join this white, sew these two ends together like I just did, and then add the blue. Oh, that's my beginning yarn. Add this one, and I've changed the order up a little bit just to break the colors up, but mostly it's exactly as they weigh. So that one I think is my beginning, so my next join is going to be at the end of this one to that one to that one. Sewing into a single yarn unplied is a little different. So you'll just go in sort of through the twist of the yarn, making small stitches almost. It's very hard to show this one because the yarn is small and the needle is small. But I've got this sort of wobbly little, it looks rubbish when I first do it, but it will disappear. And really I'm just going through the twist of the yarn every little bit, and then we'll attach this one. Pull that one through. Come on. And that'll be fine and stable. And it almost looks like that yarn is now plied. Once I've joined 5 or 8 yarns, just sort of depending on my mood, I start winding from the larger end, so the heavier end weight of yarn. This was a 1.8, 1.9 gram scrap. And I'm just going to wind that up into a ball. Of course, I had to unwind everything first. There's a Russian join for that single ply. And I just keep winding until my whole ball is ready to go. If I can join 5 or 8 yarns at a time, then I can work on the shawl for a while and then join some more yarns, work on the shawl, join some more yarns, but not always have to have everything ready and joined perfectly the first minute, because this is all about making choice. There's another little join, so we're on to color 3. And what's really fun about this is often if I do more than 5 yarns, I'll forget what yarn is in the middle, and so it's kind of a surprise as it comes out as I'm knitting, especially when you get into the later part of the shawl where you have longer rows and more yarn. But here we go. We're just about ready to get started actually knitting my Oddment Shawl. See, that's so fun. Okay, we've weighed the yarn, we've joined the yarn, we've made a little ball to work with. Here's my beginning yarn. It's crimpy because it got unknit out of something and I didn't bother to steam it. I just tossed it in my scraps. Here's my needle. We're going to just cast on 4 stitches to start the garter tab. And then knit 6 rows. So you'll end up with 3 garter ridges when you're done. So 1 row, two rows, and there's my first garter ridge. So we're going to go ahead and knit 4 more rows. Okay, there's my 6 rows, 4 stitches with 6 rows, 1, 2, 3, 3 ridges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn and work 90 degrees. So this will be one edge of the shawl, this will be the middle of the shawl, this will be the other edge of the shawl. And I'm going to go into this first ridge and pick up a knit 1, into the next ridge, pick up a knit 2, and into the last ridge, pick up and knit a 3rd stitch. Okay, so now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches that were live stitches, 3 pick up and knits, and now I'm going to pick up and knit 4 on the other end of the cast on of the tab where I originally cast on. So there's 1, let's see, there's 2, get my tail out of the way, that'll be 3, and then just right into the corner there, that'll be 4. So now I have this little weird nubbin. It'll sort itself out in a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches for the edge, 5, 6, 7 stitches, 3 stitches in the middle, 8, 9, 10, 11 stitches total, 4 stitches, 4 stitches, 3 stitches. And this is the very beginning garter tab of the shawl. And then we're just going to move into the first row, which is immediately an increase row. So we're going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over. You're always going to have knit 4, yarn over. And then when you do an increase row, we're going to use a reverse loop, make 1. So we're going to knit 1 and then make 1 by putting an E loop or a reverse loop, looks like a little cursive E, onto the needle, twist it at the bottom, and pulling it tight. Knit 1. I like to do this on my thumb, so I've got it wrapped around my thumb. I twist it. I drop the yarn. I twist it onto the needle. You can see the shape there. Pull it tight. Knit 1. So for that first row, I had 1 yarn over, knit 1, make 1, knit 1, make 1, knit 1, yarn over, and then knit 4, because I will always knit 4 on that edge. That's the beginning of the shawl. We'll show you that increase again on the next increase row. Okay, row 3 is also an increase row, so we're going to do our 4 edge stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over. And now we're just going to do what we did again. Knit 1, make 1, knit 1, wrap the yarn into a loop with a twist. Looks like a small cursive E, and pull it tight. Knit 1, make 1. Oh, that one I did off my finger. That was fun. Usually I go off my thumb. Make 1, knit 1, make 1, knit 1, make 1, last knit 1, yarn over, knit 4. It's beginning to have a little bit of body, but not much yet. Okay, we've hit a color change just after the first increase round, row 9 on the pattern. I did my increases and now I'm into the plain section. So I was just going to talk a little bit about when you hit a color change. So first of all, your 4 edge stitches will always stay the same. They will always be knits. And if you're on the wrong side row, as I am right here right now, you're just going to want to purl that yarn over, no matter what you do. And then you will work any new color stitches in stockinette as you plan to. When you are working the former color, right? So I've switched from this white to this purple, and now I get to decide. I think I'll do a garter ridge, so I'm just going to knit across the color change instead of purling. And I'm getting this decorative ridge on the other side. I've worked a little further. I've got this nice purpley Malabrigo stripe and I'm coming up on my next color change, and it's going to happen, as most of the color changes will, right in the middle of a row right now. And I think I'm going to do eyelets on this one. So all of these purple stitches were worked stockinette. I'm on the wrong side again, so that's a purl. But here I'm going to yarn over and purl 2 together. into my purple stitches all the way to the last 5 stitches of the row. I'm always going to start with a yarn over and end with a knit 2 together or purl 2 together, and maybe just work 1 stitch plain if I don't have enough stitches to make it even. So there, I purled into my yarn over, knit the 4 edge stitches, and then I'm going to come back around, and I'm not done with my color transition yet because only these stitches here have color transitioned. These stitches are still unworked, these purple stitches here. So I'm going to work back across with my new color of yarn. 4 yarn over. And these transitions will happen all over the place because you can't, if you weigh your yarn and sew the Russian joins, you can't predict where they're going to happen. They're just going to show up, which I think is really fun. I think that's one of the things that makes this shawl very interesting to knit and very fun to wear. So here I've worked all my variegated knitted width, the black, blue, gray, and I'm going into the colored stitches, and I can decide I can do another, continue the eyelets and they'll be staggered. I could do some garter stitch. I'm going to continue the eyelets. So now I'm knitting 2 together instead of purling 2 together to keep that stockinette eyelets consistent. And I'm just going to work all the way across this row until all of the purple stitches have been worked into the new color. And so you'll get rows like, let's see, this one has a couple of eyelets here and then a garter ridge. This white row, I did a, let's see, first I transitioned with a garter ridge and then I did eyelets on coming around the other side. So you can see that my transitions, they move, they stagger, they're inconsistent, just the way our scraps are. And that makes this shawl very, very fun. Okay, let's talk about the crown edging to finish this shawl. This is a long bind off. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot of yarn, but it's going to look so good. It's got bound off stitches between little picoed eyelets. It almost looks like a crochet scallop, but you don't have to crochet. It's just 1 row of bind off knitting. So here we go. Starting out at this end, you would bind off 2 stitches. That's where I am. 1 and 2. Okay, take your right hand needle, stitch back on the left using a knitted cast on 2. 1, 2, and now 3 stitches there, bind off 2. 1, 2. You'll do that 2 more times. Stitch back to the left hand needle, knitted cast on 2. 1, 2, bind off 2. Back to left hand needle 1 more time, knitted cast on 2. 1, 2, and then bind off 2. 1, 2, and that makes this sort of long caterpillar, I suppose. And now bind off 6. And here is the caterpillar we made. It's become this little picot crown edge, and we're ready to start again. I'll just talk through it one more time. I'm going to slide the right needle to the left, knitted cast on 2, and bind off 2. Back to the left needle, knitted cast on 2, and bind off 2. Once more, back to the left needle, so you'll do that cast on 2, bind off 2 3 times. This is the 3rd time. Cast on 2, bind off 2, that makes the little crown, and then bind off 6. 1, 2, 3. And that is such an easy and fancy little edge that just finishes off this shawl with a little bit of fun.